The holographic display flickered to life in the cramped briefing room of the mercenary vessel Talon's Edge, casting an eerie blue glow across Commander Zeph's 4 scarred arms. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species as he studied the bounty notice that had just arrived through encrypted channels. "Gentlemen," Zeph announced to his assembled crew, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never met a problem he couldn't solve with superior firepower, "we have struck what the humans call..." Lieutenant Krell, a nervous creature with too many eyes and not enough spine, leaned forward in his hover chair. "Sir, the bounty amount seems excessive. Are you certain this is legitimate?" Zeph's laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. 50,000 galactic credits, each. "For 2 measly humans," he gestured, with one of his upper arms toward the hologram displaying 2 mugshots. Sarah Blake and Marcus Chen, former Terran Defense Force, now wanted for, let me see, destruction of property, theft of military assets, assault on peacekeeping forces, and something called aggravated smartassery. The crew exchanged glances. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for their unpredictability, but they were also soft, slow, and technologically inferior. What could 2 of them possibly do against a fully equipped alien mercenary squad? "Sir," piped up Gorth, "their intelligence specialist. The report mentions their hold-up on Outpost Zeta 7. Remote trading station, minimal security, civilian population, standard smash-and-grab operation." "Exactly," Zeph said, his confidence growing by the second. "Humans rely on primitive kinetic weapons and basic explosives. We have energy shields, plasma rifles, and enough firepower to level a small moon. This will be easier than harvesting fruit from a sleeping tree beast." The ship's engines hummed to life as they set course for Outpost Zeta 7. In the cargo bay, the crew checked their equipment one final time. Advanced targeting systems, personal force fields, enough weaponry to outfit a small army. Zeph watched them prepare with satisfaction. "Remember, team," he called out, "these are humans we're dealing with. They think linearly, react predictably, and panic under pressure. Stick to the plan, follow standard containment protocols, and we'll be counting our credits before the station's artificial day cycle ends." There's your opening section. This 400-word introduction establishes Zeph's overconfidence, introduces the key characters, sets up the bounty scenario, and shows the alien perspective on human limitations. The tone is appropriately sarcastic and sets up the mercenaries for their upcoming reality check. The writing includes plenty of punctuation for clear AI voiceover reading, avoids all the forbidden words you listed, and maintains the engaging, movie-like quality you requested. The alien's dismissive attitude toward human capabilities creates the perfect setup for what's coming next. Ready for the next section? 3 hours later, Zeph crouched behind a ventilation unit on the station's upper level, watching the cantina through his tactical scope. His team was in position, Krell at the main entrance, Torx covering the back exit, and Bleck monitoring the service corridors, perfect execution of a textbook containment operation. The 2 humans sat at a corner table, completely oblivious to their impending capture. The woman, Sarah Blake, was laughing at something on her datapad while nursing what appeared to be genuine Terran whiskey. Expensive stuff. The man, Marcus Chen, had his back to the wall and seemed to be tinkering with some kind of handheld device. Typical human paranoia, Zeph thought with amusement. "All units, this is command," Zeph whispered into his comm. "Targets confirmed. Begin approach. Remember, we want them alive. The bounty specifically mentions breathing condition preferred." Zeph descended from his perch and strode into the cantina with the confidence of someone who had done this dance 1,000 times before. His team moved in perfect synchronization, cutting off all escape routes. The other patrons, a mix of traders and station workers, quickly vacated the area. Smart beings knew when to make themselves scarce. The humans looked up as the mercenaries closed in, plasma rifles trained on their position. Oddly, neither seemed particularly concerned. In fact, Sarah was still smiling. "Sarah Blake and Marcus Chen," Zeph announced, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent cantina. "By order of the Galactic Bounty Commission, you are under arrest. Surrender now, and this can proceed peacefully. Sarah took another sip of her whiskey and glanced around at the 6 heavily armed aliens surrounding their table. "Marcus," she said, conversationally, "I think we have a problem." "Just one problem," Marcus replied without looking up from his device. Zeph felt his confidence swell. Fear was making the humans irrational. Time to end this. He raised his primary weapon and delivered the line that had made countless criminals surrender without a fight. "You are surrounded." Sarah Blake slowly placed her glass on the table and looked directly at Zeph. Her smile widened into something that made the veteran mercenary's scales itch with unease. "By what?" she asked, her tone light and conversational. "Targets or witnesses?" The cantina fell completely silent. Even the station's ambient hum seemed to pause. Zeph blinked, his forearms shifting uncertainly. That was not the response he had expected. Humans were supposed to beg, or panic, or at least acknowledge their hopeless situation. What?" Zeph stammered, his tactical training suddenly feeling inadequate. Marcus finally looked up from his device and grinned at his partner. "I told you they'd fall for the obvious approach." "You owe me 20 credits, Sarah replied, still staring directly at Zeph. "I said they'd use the front door." Something cold crawled up Zeph's spine. These humans weren't acting like cornered prey. They were acting like predators who had just spotted their next meal. The first sign that Zeph's textbook operation had become a nightmare was when Marcus pressed a button on his handheld device. Every light in the cantina flickered once, then twice. The ambient music cut out. Even the artificial gravity hiccuped for half a second, causing several mercenaries to stumble. "Krell," Zeph barked into his comm. "Report." "Static. Pure, beautiful static." "How?" Zeph demanded, his forearms tightening on his weapon. "Our equipment is military grade. Quantum encrypted. Impossible to hack." Marcus looked genuinely surprised. "Oh, I didn't hack your comms. I just turned off the station's communication relay. Your fancy quantum encryption is trying to bounce signals off a transmitter that's currently, how should I put this, taking a little nap." Before Zeph could process this information, Sarah casually reached into her jacket. Every mercenary in the room tensed, weapons trained on her. She slowly withdrew, a salt shaker. "Really? Talks?" The team's demolitions expert laughed through his translator. "A condiment. This is your secret weapon?" Sarah's grin widened. "Marcus, what did I tell you about underestimating the strategic value of sodium chloride? That it makes excellent flash powder when combined with the proper oxidizer," Marcus replied, still tapping away at his device. "And what?" Sarah continued, unscrewing the salt shaker's top. "Do you suppose they use to pressurize the fire suppression systems in a space station cantina?" Zeph's blood turned to ice. "Everyone down." Too late. Sarah hurled the contents of the salt shaker directly at the nearest fire suppression nozzle. The chemical reaction was immediate, spectacular, and completely blinding. The cantina erupted in a shower of sparks and white-hot flame that lasted exactly 3 seconds before the emergency systems triggered, dousing everyone in fire-retardant foam. In the chaos, both humans simply vanished. "Status report." Zeph bellowed, wiping foam from his optical sensors. His team was stumbling around like newly hatched larvae, their advanced targeting systems completely useless in the chemical fog. "Sir," Bleck's voice crackled over a dying comm unit. "The service corridors. They're using the maintenance tunnels." Of course they were. Zeph's tactical training had covered every possible escape route except the one that required crawling through spaces designed for repair drones. Humans, with their ridiculous flexibility and complete disregard for dignity, fit perfectly. "Pursue. Use the scanner arrays to track their heat signatures." "Sir, the scanner arrays are offline." "What do you mean offline?" "I mean someone remotely accessed the station's diagnostic protocols and convinced the system that all our equipment is a fire hazard that needs to be deactivated for safety reasons." Zeph stared at his lieutenant. "The station's computer is that smart?" "No, sir. But apparently someone fed it a maintenance manual that classifies plasma rifles as unregulated thermal devices, requiring immediate shutdown in pressurized environments." A new voice echoed through the cantina's comm system. Marcus, speaking with the casual tone of someone ordering lunch. Attention visiting mercenaries, please note that Outpost Zeta 7 takes fire safety very seriously. All unauthorized thermal devices have been temporarily disabled. Please report to the nearest safety officer for equipment inspection. Have a pleasant day. How is he accessing the station's communication grid? Zeph demanded. Sir, Krell whispered, his voice filled with growing horror. I don't think he accessed anything. I think he just asked nicely. The station's AI actually likes him. Somewhere in the distance, Sarah's laughter echoed through the ventilation system, followed by what sounded suspiciously like small explosions. Zeph realized, with dawning terror, that his perfectly planned ambush had somehow become their perfectly planned trap. What followed could only be described as the most educational 30 minutes of Zeph's professional career, though he would have preferred learning these lessons from a safe distance of several star systems. The chase began in the station's hydroponics bay, where Bleck cornered Sarah among the tomato plants. He raised his backup kinetic weapon, confident that even humans couldn't turn vegetables into tactical advantages. He was wrong. Sarah grabbed a handful of cherry tomatoes and began pelting him with surgical precision. Marcus, she called out cheerfully, remember that thing about kinetic energy transfer? You mean how a small object moving fast enough can trigger the safety sensors on powered armor? Marcus's voice echoed from somewhere in the ventilation system above. Each tomato impact registered as potential projectile fire on Bleck's combat suit, causing his armor to automatically lock down in protective mode. Within seconds he was encased in his own equipment like a very expensive, very embarrassed statue. How? Bleck wailed through his helmet speakers. They're just tomatoes. Physics doesn't care about your feelings. Sarah replied, patting his helmet sympathetically before disappearing through an access hatch. In the next corridor, Torx thought he had Marcus trapped. The human was cornered in a dead-end hallway with nowhere to run. Torx activated his personal shield and advanced confidently. Surrender, human. Your primitive tricks won't work on military-grade defense systems. Marcus looked genuinely impressed. Wow, that's really nice shield. Personal plasma barrier, right? Probably cost more than most people make in a year. Exactly. Nothing can penetrate this technology. Oh, I wouldn't want to penetrate it, Marcus said, pulling out what appeared to be a standard emergency flashlight. I just want to ask it a question. He began flashing the light in a complex pattern. Torx's shield flickered, then began cycling through its startup sequence repeatedly. What are you doing? Torx demanded. Morse code, Marcus explained patiently. Your shield's diagnostic port is designed to receive emergency maintenance signals. I'm just telling it that it needs to run a full system check. Right now, Torx's expensive military hardware obediently shut itself down to perform the requested diagnostic, leaving him standing in the hallway holding a very fancy paperweight. You've got to be kidding me, Torx muttered. The diagnostic will take about 20 minutes, Marcus added helpfully. Maybe grab some coffee while you wait. Meanwhile, Krell had tracked Sarah to the station's shopping district, where he was certain her luck would finally run out. She was trapped in a gift shop, surrounded by nothing but tourist trinkets and overpriced souvenirs. He burst through the door, weapon ready, only to find Sarah constructing something that looked suspiciously like a catapult out of selfie sticks and decorative magnets. You cannot be serious, Krell said. Dead serious, Sarah replied, loading her improvised siege engine with snow globes. Did you know these things are pressurized? And that gift shop magnets are surprisingly strong when you connect enough of them, in series. The first snow globe hit Krell's weapon with enough force to knock it from his grip. The second one triggered the sprinkler system. The third one somehow managed to activate every musical souvenir in the shop simultaneously, creating a cacophony that could probably be heard in the next sector. This is insane, Krell wailed, retreating under a barrage of commemorative paperweights. This is Tuesday, Sarah called back, reloading with decorative ceramic spoons. By the time Zeph regrouped with what remained of his functional team, 3 of his mercenaries were trapped by their own equipment, One was receiving a lecture on retail therapy from Station Master Gorth, and his communications specialist was somehow locked in a bathroom that had mysteriously gained sentience. "Sir," the communications specialist's voice crackled over the intercom, "I think the toilet is mocking me in binary." Zeph stared at the ceiling and wondered if it was too late to pursue a nice, safe career in asteroid mining. The final confrontation took place exactly where it had begun, the cantina. Zeph found himself sitting at the same corner table where his targets had been, while Sarah and Marcus stood over him with expressions of polite concern. "You look tired," Sarah observed, offering him a fresh glass of whiskey. "Long day." Zeph accepted the drink with one of his trembling hands. Around the cantina his entire team sat in various states of technological entrapment or psychological defeat. Bleck was still locked in his armor. Torx was waiting for his shield diagnostic to complete. Krell had somehow gotten himself stuck to the gift shop's magnetic security system. "How?" Zeph asked, his voice hollow. "How did two humans defeat a fully equipped mercenary squad?" Marcus pulled up a chair and sat down companionably. "Well, technically, we didn't defeat you. Your equipment defeated you. We just encouraged it a little." "But the bounty," Zeph protested weakly. 50,000 credits each, for destruction of property, theft of military assets. "Oh, that," Sarah waved dismissively. "The destruction was completely justified. The theft was actually a repossession, and the assault charges were dropped when the peacekeeping forces realized they'd been arresting the wrong people for 6 months. Then why are we wanted?" Marcus grinned. "We're not. Well, not anymore. But we heard through the grapevine that someone had put out a fake bounty on us. Figured it might be fun to meet whoever was gullible enough to take the contract." Zeph's remaining dignity crumbled like a stale cookie. You were hunting us." "Bingo." Sarah raised her glass in a toast. "Though to be fair, you made it really easy. Who broadcasts their approach vector on an unencrypted channel? Standard military protocol demands." "Standard military protocol assumes your opponents are also using standard military protocol," Marcus interrupted gently. "Humans don't really do standard." 20 minutes later, Zeph found himself signing what Sarah cheerfully called surrender paperwork, while Marcus transferred their ship's registration into human names as compensation for emotional distress and equipment therapy costs. "Don't feel too bad," Sarah said, as his crew shuffled toward the exit. "You'll have a great story to tell at mercenary conventions." "If I survive the paperwork," Zeph muttered, already composing his complaint to the Galactic Bounty Guild, though he suspected they'd just file it under humans. Results may vary. As his ship limped away from the station, Zeph made 2 decisions. First, he was definitely switching to asteroid mining. Second, he was updating his crew manual to include a new rule: if the contract involves humans, the pay isn't worth it. Behind them, Sarah and Marcus returned to their drinks, already planning their next hunting trip.